Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing on this Friday? Start to the weekend. Ooh, Black Friday, and I stayed home in solidarity. I'm due for a new phone today. Didn't go out. I want to start today's video with my condolences to Sarah Beckstrom's family. I just want to say, may she rest in eternal bliss. She deserved it. I want to get on to this thing about nurses aren't professional. Well, if it weren't for nurses, who knows, right? So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Love me, like me, share me. Don't forget to subscribe. And apparently hype. That's a thing now. So yeah, love me, like me, share me. Don't forget to hype and hangers on. Yeah. You feel the love? All for you. So, let's talk about nurses, shall we? Nurses pretty much do everything a doctor won't. Not because they can't, but because some of them have that God complex. Some of them. I've had some good doctors in my time. So patients who feel unwell or broken bones, car crashes, they show up at Emerge, a whole team greets them. Might be 1 or 2 doctors, 10 or 12 nurses. Just saying. So, they send you for tests. It's a good start, right? So, where does it hurt? Diagnostics, blah, blah, blah. They check the scans, they check the x-rays, radiologist tells them what's going on, and the doctors, well, he goes and reads up on it, I would imagine, because they haven't seen everything, and there's always something new. And then they start a protocol, and then the nurses step up. Nurses are no longer considered a profession anymore. It's just another job. And neither are nurse practitioners, who they kind of take that heavy load off doctors, the professional doctors, right? They get to keep theirs. Nurse practitioners are registered nurses with advanced degrees. They have a master's degree or a doctorate, which kind of makes them a doctor, don't you think? But yeah, they assess patients and they can order tests. Just like a professional doctor. They can interpret results. They diagnose illnesses and prescribe medications, just like a professional doctor. These healing angels are the primary caregivers in a lot of areas. That's all you get is a nurse practitioner, and that's the next best thing to God when you have nothing. Just saying. They're licensed, and in order to get their license, they need a master's degree or a doctorate to get their license. But they're not professional, though. They are licensed to work in hospitals, clinics, hospice centers, where you spend your last few days or weeks. And they have private practices as well. And just like a professional doctor, their responsibilities include developing a treatment plan. They inform patients about their illness, their injuries, their diseases, and they educate the patients on how best to deal with and manage their health, just like a professional doctor. They sometimes work with doctors, not for them, and collaborate on the next courses of action. Again, these health guardians are no longer considered professional. Donald Dump's pull-ups and his conspirator of the WWE fame and SA scandal, where 12 and 13-year-old ring boys were SA'd on a regular basis, and apparently a lot of upper management knew about it, including her and her, husband. Her and her husband, Vince McMahon, who is allegedly involved in sex trafficking rings. Because, Donald Trump, he only hangs with people he can hang out to dry. So, Linda McMahon is the Secretary of Education. Now, that's a huge laugh. She was at a town hall not too long ago and talking about bringing AI into elementary and public schools. I don't think public schools are going to get much of anything out of her. But first off, she called AI A1, like the steak sauce. Oh, these kids are going to do good on A1. I don't think many kids like A1. Just saying. It's a little tangy. And two, why is she even wasting the time and money to go traveling around to all these town halls when she's closing the Department of Education? They're phasing it out. And she's the genius that is reclassifying a nursing degree as not a professional degree for colleges and universities. This is yet another huge cut in the big bastardly bullshit billionaires bill. This crucial blunder will eliminate the Grad Plus loans program that many students need to pay for grad school. And this will put a cap on how much students can borrow. The professional degree allows folks to borrow more than $200,000. That's ridiculous. A $200,000 limit, while grad students are capped at $100,000. Now this excludes nursing, teachers. I'll get into more of that later. And it will literally price them out of the profession. In my opinion, I think it also has a lot to do with the loans. Predatory loans, with interest rates so high that these people will have their houses and cars paid off way before their education. They'll be going into the nursing home and still paying for their education because of predatory fucking loans and extremely high interests. This bill will put a huge plug in the already huge shortage of nurses. There are tens of thousands of nurses that are qualified and they're not working in the profession. With the cuts, just like all the cuts and douchebaggery this regime is inflicting on Americans, this will also stop nurses from being teachers at colleges and universities because they can't afford the added education it takes to teach them. But sure, the top 5% of Americans are going to get $1.5 trillion in tax breaks. Can you imagine what $1.5 trillion would do to all of these professions that they no longer claim is professional? But professional wrestlers, right? Yeah, fuck. Linda McMahon, Department of Education, they were asked for a quote, and they said it's fake news and accused the nursing organizations of having a free ride with unlimited tuition on the taxpayer's dime. Unlimited tuition. Who's fucking paying it back? Not her. According to the Independent. I love those guys. I always get good stuff from the Independent. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. How many registered nurses, registered nurse practitioners, PSWs, physiotherapists, physician's assistants, occupational therapists, teachers, school teachers, audiologists, architects, accountants, and social workers are going to be screwed, put it simply. These professions affect every human on the planet. Every human has been in contact with a nurse practitioner, or a teacher at least one time in their lives, and there are over 342 million people in the United States of America. So what would happen if every nurse, every registered nurse is a physician, practitioner, all decided to walk off the job? What would happen? Cheers, dears. Yum, yum. Nice and cool. Good way to start the weekend. You know, there are more nursing staff at hospitals than there are doctors, right? You know, I had to go to for surgery, and while I was in there, something went terribly wrong. I ended up in recovery, and it was a nurse that noticed that my belly was getting very distended, and it was growing. Turns out it was full of blood because there was an accident during my surgery. And they had to rush me back in. It was a nurse that saved me that day because my vitals were almost at zero. I was apparently clinically dead. They raced me back into surgery, and I spent almost 7 days in a coma. In the ICU with nurses working 12-hour shifts around the clock, and they kept me alive. Maybe that's my purpose now because of them. A great bunch of nurses were my angels while I was in the acute stroke ward for 8 days as well. And it was PSWs that gave me my first bed bath after a couple days in that bed and helped me to shower when I got more amble and could get the hang of using a walker. They were there. The PSWs were there at every minute, anything I needed. They would come in and change my bed and everything. Yes, they were amazing. All these nursing professionals. It was the nurses in triage when I showed up at the hospital for my stroke and emerged that started all the preliminary stuff. I wasn't there 10 minutes, and there was two nurses that came out, put me in a wheelchair, took me back to triage, and they did all my intake information. They started my IVs so the doctor could get in there and diagnose me. And I have an excellent family doctor as well, and she does not mess around. She listens and sends me to specialists as I need them, free of charge. And she really appreciates her whole staff. She does things for her staff, and it's like a family over there, and everyone works together. I don't know, maybe it's because it's the 3 doctors at where I go are all women. I don't know. Just saying. There is a pig head Seth energy in the doctor's ranks sometimes, where when a nurse calls the doctor on call for some information on a patient that may be crashing, sometimes they get screamed at and said, call somebody else. When there are nobody else, that's why he's the doctor on call, or she is the doctor on call. Now, what are some of the services that nurses offer? It's not just that they offer, it's their job. And they do it with dignity, and they do it with pride. I know there are a few nurses that have made the news for being horrible as well, but the good ones far outweigh the bad ones. COVID showed us a lot about how nurses were treated. They held up tablets to dying patients so their loved ones could say their last goodbyes, and they cried with the families. When an ICU patient miraculously recovered from COVID, they did a gauntlet down the hall, and they all clapped and wished them well as they went home. In Canada, the Chaos Caucus, or Chaos Convoy, decided that they didn't have enough freedom, and they didn't want to wear masks, and they didn't want mask mandates and everything else. Hospital staff in Ottawa, when they finally landed there, hospital staff were assaulted in the streets, literally, and they were harassed for the COVID hoax. Wonder where they got that from. The hospitals told their staff to wear street clothes to and from work because a bunch of incredibly stupid people didn't care to educate themselves. Now, if every nurse walked out of hospitals, just the hospitals now, the place would close in under an hour, I'm sure of it. Think of it, even before you see that doctor, a team of nurses does your intake while the doctor and triage teams assess the emergency. And the doctor's mostly looking like this while the nursing staff are ripping everybody's clothes off and starting lines and stuff. So he can finally come in and do his job, her job. The nurses that start the IVs, they clean the wounds. They do wound dressings. They do ostomy care. They do colostomy care. I had great nurses when I had my last hose up the bum thing. And yes, Donnie, it was a nurse that shoved that Foley catheter up your teeny-weeny pee-pee hole. And it is a nurse that has to change and empty that huge bag of wee strapped to your very swollen legs. It was a nurse that looked after all of your neurotic imaginary needs when you had COVID. They were there. The ones that checked on you every 15 minutes at Walter Reed when you had COVID so bad you were huffing and grunting and puffing like a fucking wildebeest in heat. They were the ones that were administering your supplemental oxygen needs. Tracked your vitals, your blood oxygen levels fell way below normal. Some reports as low as the mid-80s. That's not good. You were so close to being on a ventilator that you had to use the muscles in your neck to breathe. You were close to needing that ventilator, but you got that good experimental cocktail that apparently you only shared with Putin, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, at the time. A nurse monitored your vitals all night long while you slept. Nurses are angels of mercy and go that extra mile. And they are the ones that change your pull-ups. They are the ones that wiped your nasty ass while you were in the hospital. And Linda McMahon, I really hope that you and Donald Trump, the next time you get sick, I hope you don't need a nurse. Because you're getting up there, Linda, and you've been dropped on your head in that ring a few times. You might be getting a little as delusional as old Donnie there. And maybe, just maybe, sooner rather than later, you better hope that while they're looking after you, they decide that maybe they're not professional enough to look after you and decide to go into gardening. How about that? Anyway, Night Nana loves you. Be good, be safe, and please take care of you first so you can take care of somebody else. I love you so much. Please give somebody a smile this weekend, and let's not go shopping. How about we just do some of this? And for all you wondering, I have been sober 42 years. This is non-alcoholic beer. It is. It is. So, you take care of you, and I will do my best to keep you informed. I may not be a nurse, but I played one with Debbie Gibson in a movie in a Hallmark. Just saying. I love you all. Take care of you. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.